Sometimes tragedy and desperation creates and breeds the real opportunity that you have for the world.
Absolutely.
And I had to go through it. So,
Yeah.
Let's Talk Assets podcast. My name is Chris A. Williams, one of your hosts. I'm joined by my co-host,
Giovanni Paradise. Today we have a very, very special guest, my good friend, Mr. Curtis Bowens. How we doing today, Kurt?
man, I'm fantastic. Happy to be here. This is exciting for me, man.
Awesome, man. We really appreciate you, taking time out of your day to join us here on the podcast. We want to start off by asking a little bit about you, Kurt. Where you from? How'd you get here? Bring us up to speed. Take us, give us kind of the rundown.
Sure. So originally from Portsmouth, Virginia. Father was in the military, so I was a military brat, traveled abroad all over throughout Europe, pretty much all of America. But originally my roots are from Portsmouth. And so being from Portsmouth, obviously, that is an area known for someone by the likes of Missy Elliott. And she was kind of like a big sister that I kind of watched blossom from, as they say, the block to superstardom.
Yeah.
And so seeing that inspired me. So, early on I was bit by the bug of entertainment and wanting to be in entertainment. Shout out to Cortez Ellis, someone that I grew up with, in different singing groups and things of that nature. And that led me on this path and this journey of entrepreneurism, because obviously entertainment is a business.
Yes, sir.
And I ended up having to learn the business in the process of trying to become and be around entertainers. And so, a lot of notable things in my journey have happened. I started a media company while I was on the college campus of Old Dominion University as a young college kid, trying to get my feet wet and trying to figure things out. And I was managing these two guys that want to be music producers. Shout out to Show Me and Phil. We had a production company, if you will, called Elusive Productions. And we ended up meeting Magoo from Timbaland and Magoo. And Magoo was a little jaded at the time with, what was going on in his career. Rest in peace, Magoo. And he basically sat us down and said, guys, y'all are some really good dudes. These guys from the beach, I'm from P-Town. And so he's like, y'all don't really want to be in the music business. Maybe be around it, do things for it, but don't necessarily be in the business. And it didn't move me at all. Again, I watched Missy go from being in Tower Mall at, where now Victory Crossing is, getting her hair cut on a Saturday morning and basically walking to and fro to get there, to being in the brand new bubble-eyed Lexus the year it came out when the Gina Thompson record dropped. So seeing all of that, I wasn't moved. I wanted to still do what we were planning to do, but my team, they were like, we gonna listen to Magoo. He knows. He's in the industry. Yeah. And so we decided to go from being Elusive Productions to Elusive Media.
Yes, sir.
And so with that, we ended up becoming, making it cool to be nerds in this town. So we ended up, and shout out to NERD, because we ended up landing them as clients, and then my life changed. And so having Pharrell and the whole NERD crew, the Neptunes, him, Chad and Shay, of course, the Clips family,
Absolutely.
and everybody that was a part of that scene, we ended up becoming the in-house, out-house media team. So we're doing a lot of their media, a lot of their videos, designing MySpaces, merch, clothes, doing full-fledged music videos. I mean, we were kind of at the cusp of that whole thing. And
So I got a good question for you, Kurt. I know you're kind of giving your age, because if anyone just watching this that knows music, they know at what time point Missy Elliott was coming up.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yep, yeah. And obviously when NERD came out, that was a little while back. The music industry as a whole has changed a lot.
Absolutely.
Since you were involved and since you started out. To me, what would, my question to you is, what would be the biggest change, in your opinion, from back then? We're talking, late 90s, early 2000s, fast forward a couple decades. what have you seen has been the biggest shift in the music industry as a whole? And I know you for a majority part, were in the hip hop sector, but obviously have cross-pollinated into different areas. What is your opinion on how it's changed?
I think it's changed in a way that has been more enslaving to the artist.
Okay.
And what do I mean by that? Well, there was a time where, kind of at the advent of the internet, prior to streaming, where you could start to get your own buzz by producing your own video, putting it out, getting fans. It could go viral, and then because of that direct connection to those fans, you could market and sell a product that was physical. Once upon a time, we had cassettes and CDs. Well, Master P, even Birdman and Baby, these guys were at the cusp and at the forefront of that, where they could actually sell right out the trunk and make millions of dollars in their backyard, literally hand to hand. They could pop the trunk. They could be at the gas station, convenience store. They could go and do little distribution deals with local mom and pops. Well, they were getting a lot of money doing that, And so the industry, by adopting streaming and kind of, taking that whole thing on, it's made it to where artists have to be much more creative now, because no one's going to pay for a physical unit when I can have a subscription to this platform and basically get all the music I want. Why would I give you what used to be $20 for your album when I'm paying $20 a month for unlimited music? So now you're getting incremental fractions for your creativity. And so, artists have been creative. Some have figured out how to, sell something, merch, or box up, and press something in a certain fashion that actually allows them to make the lion's share. Like Wu-Tang did a collector's edition, a one of one, and sold it for millions of dollars, and had restrictions on it, almost like what NFTs tried to do during the advent of the pandemic. But I think that's been the biggest hurdle in the economy of music, because it's diluted it so much to where it's no longer about the art. At one point when I was growing up, I could turn on the TV, listen to, watch a video program like MTV or BET and see true artistry. Now it's, hey, we got to water this stuff down, because guess what? We got to monetize it, and there's not a lot of profit margin. So now it starts to get very cookie cutterish, if you ask me. People are afraid to be innovative and try something different. Like, if you listen to, the top rap artists, a lot of the stuff that you hear, for the most part, that's not the staying artists. When I say staying, I mean your Kendricks and your Drakes. Any of the new guys that come out sound like somebody that's already been out, and they don't have the same shelf life. Whereas once upon a time, you had a variety of opportunities in music to be whoever you were, whether you were Will Smith saying Parents Don't Just Understand, or whether you were, Fight the Power, Public Enemy. Whatever you were doing, there was a lane for it. And so, I think it's a real challenge now, because now, with the minimizing of the income opportunities or the asset opportunities that we're here to talk about, the promotion of it and the lifestyle has not stopped. So companies are still glorifying this lifestyle. So every kid wants to rap, wants to sing, wants to put music out, not realizing the mechanics behind it. Snoop Dogg came out and said, hey man, I had over 1 billion streams and only got like 40 grand. Well, guess what? That video that he got those streams on, what did that cost? For a guy like Snoop, maybe $200,000 for the actual video at a minimum. Or let's talk about the production of the song itself. What is the production value cost? These guys are paying, hundreds of dollars an hour in the studio. They're paying tens of thousands of dollars for, beats and beat clearances. So we're spending real major money to then get this type of success that doesn't happen for everybody and only make 40 grand. Kid at McDonald's can make 40 grand in a year right now with the way minimum wage is, just working some overtime.
Absolutely.
So, it's you've got to be a lot more innovative and a lot more creative, if you ask me, because the desire hasn't changed. But the competition is at an all-time high. SoundCloud got over 40 million people independently saying they're artists and putting music out. But Billboard is only talking about the top 100 in any genre. So if we say country, rap, R&B, pop, so we got 400, 500 slots for all of music to be worthwhile and to be seen, but we got 40 million people trying to fit into that little pond. it's unheard of.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective. Because what I've been hearing a lot is that now is a better time for artists.
Propaganda.
Because the internet, though, and follow me what I'm saying, though. So they're saying back then, artists, they had to sign that record deal. They had to sign like a 30-70 deal, 360 deals, all things like that. So most of their money was going to the record label. They weren't really taking home anything. See the 90s, see Diddy, Mace, everything like Bad Boy, everything like that. Versus now, artists can skip the record label because why do they need the record label? They have the internet, they have YouTube, to promote their stuff. They don't really need the record label, so now they can keep 100% of their profit. So how do you feel about that?
That's all. Everything you just said, and excuse me for saying it this way, is mostly propaganda. Even in what you just said, keeping 100% of the profit. Well, how do we monetize or marginalize this profit when it's based on a stream coming from a company that is in bed with the labels that is basically paying you a tenth of a penny every time your song plays? So if you, let's say you build this massive following of people that love what Chris is doing musically, you killing it in the real estate game, and you might have some real estate music you drop that all the agents just go crazy over, right? There's a lot of agents in the world, right? They can really connect with you. Yeah. So all of a sudden, you starting to see millions and billions of streams. But guess what? We're only talking about a tenth of a fraction of a penny. We're not talking about no real profit. Okay. The real profit is going to the corporations and including the labels. Even as an independent artist, Universal Records makes $51 million every single day off of streaming. Why? Because they get the lion's share because of the coalition of what's called the RIAA, Recording Industry Association of America. Guess what? They have litigation in place that basically says for all this uncollected, because most independent artists, I don't know how to go through a DSP the right way. They just put it on SoundCloud. Yeah. They put it on the internet. Well, guess what? Some web platform is generating advertising off that stream. You can't go to any of these platforms and not see some kind of advertising, even if it's only a few seconds. Well, that company is paying for those few seconds. Yeah. Meanwhile, you're only scheduled to get a third, a fourth, a fifth, or a tenth of a penny, depending on who it's with. And that's only if you're registered correctly. But guess what? Most of these cats is too busy trying to get the fan base to even worry about registering the right way. So where's all that uncollected money go back to? The same labels we're talking about. So they don't have to. Have you noticed that these labels are barely signing anybody? Yeah. Have you noticed that? They don't have to. They're going to make money off you whether you want them to or not, because that's how it's structured. They have the system in place. And so the best advantage for artists, creatives of any kind, especially in music, is to not only connect with that fan, but have a way to monetize that relationship. Now, OnlyFans has a great model, but guess what? It's branded in the, content creation kind of thing, right? Where, people take a little clothes off and they do a little this and do that. Well, think of this, the average artist, if they could connect with their fans and actually have a subscription-based situation, now the tides turn. Now things change a little bit. And so that's kind of the saving grace for artists, if you ask me. But again, they gotta campaign. They gotta shake hands and kiss babies and connect with folks, because now everything is based on community. That's where the true benefit is. It's not in the streaming platforms, because they're going to keep the lion's share. They take 90-some% of the actual profit, bust it down with the label, and give the artist a few cents on the dollar. They've got a better setup than drugs, to be honest with you. Yeah.
So do you think it's profitable being in entertainment, being in that world now, being an artist now?
So the profitable thing is attention. Okay. Attention is key.
And you monetize that.
You monetize attention. So if your music is what's going to get you attention, or if you're a beautiful young lady and your physique is going to get you attention, or your creative mind, or your conversation, or your captions, whatever your offering is to the world, if it gets you attention, you monetize that attention. A lot of people fall into the category of, I just want to make music to be heard. You're lying. You want to get paid. Yeah, facts. Okay? You want to get paid. You just don't have the concept of how this happened. How does this happen for you to get paid? And when? If I go sign up with Spotify, Tidal, Pandora, any of those platforms, it's going to take me 12 to 14 months to see my first check on my stream. Now, who would you go work for outside of real estate, right? Who would you go work for that says, look, we're going to start you today, but you're going to get your first check after working for me a whole year, next year sometime. Are you going to go work for them?
No, sir.
But that's what artists sign themselves and hire themselves for every day and don't realize it.
Absolutely.
Because they're too busy wanting to be cool and the facade of, well, I'm going to be able to get the girls and I'm going to know the DJs and I'm going to get in the club and eventually this might happen for me. Meanwhile, the bills is paid, piling up. You know, all this stuff costs. Every part of this costs, meaning the relationship with the DJ costs you. Getting in the club costs you. The clothes for the video costs you. Getting the videographer costs you. Getting this, everything costs. So they delay the satisfaction of getting paid for the hopeful gain for later. But they're going through the pain right now. Meanwhile, if they just focus on building their community and connecting with people and having something where people feel like, hey, look, I need to buy into this, whether that I like you so much, I need to have exclusive access to your shows and your personal appearances and performance. You know, there's got to be something more to it.
Yeah.
100%. And take us back a little bit again to your Lucid Media days. What do you feel back then? Because obviously you weren't as seasoned as you are now, as experienced. What made you an asset back then to your clients?
We were willing to do whatever it took. And that's been my saving grace my whole life. Like, you know, see, a lot of times people think that entrepreneurism is this glamorous, instant, you're successful overnight. And it's actually the opposite. It's you don't know when or how. And you got your fingers crossed and you praying and you up at night. But ultimately, that belief in yourself and more importantly, that desire to add value to your customer, you know, that's what's going to take you where you need to go because everything is sales. Everything is transactional. So if you go to the restaurant and you have a good experience, AKA transaction, you're going to come back. You're going to tell people about it. And you'll go again and again and again. You go in that same restaurant and the food is burnt, the service is poor, it has a weird odor, you see a bug rolling. You're not going to come back and you're going to tell 20, 30 people. Yeah. It's the same thing. How we buy is how we should sell ourselves. But a lot of times we don't think of it that way. We just think, oh, well, I'm going to get out here and this is my price and whatever they want. They're not going to honor it, whatever. And guess what ends up happening? You lose. Yeah. You know, but with us at Elusive, we were willing to go the extra mile. We were willing to do certain work for free for the right client. Because if I'm working with Pharrell, for example, I'm not telling him what my budget and my price or any of that is right now. It's Pharrell Williams calling me saying, hey, I need this, this, and this. Guess what? We're going to roll our sleeves up and go do this, this, and this. And then once we're done, if he wants to pay us, great. But guess what we get to do? We get to advertise and market and promote that. We just did XYZ for Pharrell. What do you think that does to my price tag to everybody else? Yeah. They assume, oh, man, if Pharrell is hiring them, we need to pay Pharrell prices. Guess what? We made more money off of everybody else than we ever made off of working with the celebrities we work with. We did most of the celebrity work, and I'm going to be honest with you at this point now, thankfully those times have changed, and we were able to earn our way into actually getting the budgets that we actually get and that my team, you know, is getting. Because even though I'm in a different lane, me and my old partner, we talk every day. We've got projects that we do together still to this day. We got a major one coming up this summer. So we've been able to still make money together. But, you know, at that time, it was fake it till you make it, you know, and that meant, you know, hey, I got to go work a part-time job that nobody knows I'm working on top of coming in here and being available for these clients that walk in or being available for that phone to ring. Nobody knows. That part's not glamorous, but I got to go do what I got to do because instead of taking this money that is literally coming in this building that I got to keep this building afloat, I can't do that and pay my bills. So I need to go make some money over here, pay my bills, and let this money circulate and cover my payroll and my overhead and my expenses to keep us going. And that's what happened.
So thank you for sharing that. Now, take us post Elusive Media. What happened with Elusive Media, you and Elusive Media? What was your next step? What happened next?
Okay. All right. Well, the thing is, as they say, more money, more problems. At the time where things were happening just way too fast for us. It was like a switch was hit, and automatically we were at the top of everybody's thought process. Everybody who was anybody in this town was coming to us for their media work. And we went from one office to the next office to the next office. Before you know, we had grown to the point where we had a small staff of about maybe 20 people. we had a real payroll. We had a beautiful location that had everything from a creature effects room to, we could roll this, we had green screen. I mean, we were at the head of our, these things are common now, but back then we were the only ones. We were a one-on-one. And in our office was folks, any given day, Chad Hugo's walking in, Shay Haley's walking in, Fam Lay's walking in, the Clips are walking in, Nate Danger Hands is walking in, Lex Luke. It just goes on and on and on. And so, with that happening the way it was a lot to manage emotionally, the egos that happened, including my own. I'll be the first to tell you, the older me was a lot more difficult to deal with than I am today, because with that experience that you talk about, you learn through trial and error that, the same people you mess over going up are going to be looking at you funny as you fall down. And you kind of have to pick yourself up and humble yourself. And so, I'm at a point in my life now where, I just got off tour with Teddy Riley, you know what I'm saying? And I'm doing a lot of major things, but that's not what defines me. What defines me is the things that I'm doing that are going to impact people's lives, that are going to change the lives of people that you see watching this podcast. That's what defines me. What kind of family man am I? Who I am to my people that I'm raising, And so that's what's really important. But to answer that question, not to get too far off tangent, so all of a sudden I wake up and we've got multiple cars outside and every day is Saturday. And I'm literally coming into my office, opening the door, and I've got my assistant coming in who, at one point or another, I'm inappropriately in a relationship with. I got a wife at home that is driving me crazy. Me and her aren't getting along. And, I was just an immature person at that time. So, nothing against her. I just wasn't the right fit for what she needed in that time period of both of our lives. I'm not going to say she was toxic or I was toxic. I just wasn't mature. Yeah. I wasn't ready to handle what marriage really is. And so, by 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm beating feet to get out of my house because me and my wife are arguing. So I want to get to the office as quick as possible where I have some relief. Yeah. My assistant comes in, who is my girlfriend, and we hanging out till my team comes in at 11. Yeah. Mind you, we're so spoiled, they not walking in here till 10:30, 11 o'clock at the earliest. By that point, I've cleaned up, made a couple dollars by closing a couple deals, had some phone calls, had brunch. They get in at 11. By 12:30, 1 o'clock, everyone's got their marching orders. They're designing, they're editing, they're coding, their graphics, whatever. And then by 1, 2, they're on a lunch break. And that lunch break might be 3-4 hours where we all go to the mall and just shop. Yeah. We at Commonwealth. We're at Carmel. We're here. We're there. And then we come back, work another 2 or 3 hours, and they're gone for the day. I'm staying because guess what? This is kind of like my home away from home. Remember, my home ain't it's volatile at home. I'd rather be here. And so after years of that, you start having this almost like that branding that I had started to develop wasn't a good fit for everybody. People looking at me like, man, we understand your wife ain't it, but that's still not cool, bro. You gotta, and mind you, these are guys that might not be in relationship at the time, or they look at me doing this and kind of double dipping when they free and clear. Some of these girls walking in here could be dealing with them. Yeah. And so there's a lot of animosity brewing, right? And then my ego, I can't carry it through that door, to be honest with you. So it was only a matter of time before me and my partner showed me to not see eye to eye. And when we separated, I rebounded because my attorney, shout out to Mike Joins, he became my investor and backer. He believed in what I had going on and the charisma and the ability to galvanize and inspire people. He saw it and said, you know what, I'm going to back you. My whole team pretty much left with me. And then when that happened, it was a lot of weird conversation in the atmosphere and things were being said. But, ultimately, I was my own demise. Yeah. When I look back, I was the problem. Granted, I'm not going to say that everything that was done in good taste. Me and Shomi, we talk every day. We were on the phone early today, right? And, I tell him all the time, bro, you owe me. And he knows he does. But I can say that in a loving fashion with no animosity, simply because when we split, I stayed in this market. He left to New York. When he left to New York, he took our resume with him. Well, guess what? You in the top, one of the top 3 markets in the country now. You in the biggest city in America. You're in New York City where the labels are, where the ad agencies are, where sports teams are, where money is, and you've got Pharrell and this one in your Rolodex and in your reel. Yeah. It's only a matter of time before things start to happen. Now, don't get me wrong. He grinded it out. He earned everything that happened for him. And I'm thankful for him. The boy just closed on a multi-million-dollar house 2 days ago. He's FaceTime like, Kurt, this our new office. Like, come on down. Like, we still are tight.
That's crazy.
But, he's come a long way. Mm-hmm. And so I'm thankful that things went the way they did, because if I had still been with him and we were still together, the things that I've created now for the world wouldn't exist, because I would have been in a different space. Sometimes tragedy and desperation creates and breeds the real opportunity that you have for the world. Absolutely. And I had to go through it. So,
yeah. I think that's a beautiful thing that you said earlier about you were your own demise, right?
Absolutely.
The self-accountability, that's major. And as an entrepreneur, that's something that you have to have. So going back to like being an entrepreneur, think about yourself at that time. What's one piece of advice you would have given yourself back then?
I'm saying this for men, right? And I'm going to say this, you guys are young men. If y'all can take into anything I'm about to tell you, this is the most important thing. Partnership is key, but the most important partnership is the partnership you have with your significant other, whether that be whatever that might be. I'm being very political correct. Whatever you into, you have to choose that person pivotally. That is a pivotal person in your world. That person can help make you a full person or cut you in half. And so if you don't pick that person correctly with discernment, with real, because unfortunately, we're in a society where, because of our hormones, right? We all have testosterone. And testosterone is a very aggressive, strong, hunting hormone. Yeah. I want to go and spear, right? And it's enjoyable. But the problem is, as an entrepreneur, that energy needs to be put in your passion. And if you got to go out here and hunt every night for something different, it's taking away from you. Yeah. And if you pick the wrong person, it's also taken away from you. So it's very important to find that balance where, you're very discerning. A lot of us get caught up in just the aesthetics on the outside, and we end up with this Lamborghini with this Pinto engine. Yeah. And now, like once upon a time, my first wife, she was a gorgeous girl. She was literally, model, the whole Carmen Electra looking type of thing, right? But there was so much trauma on her inside. Meeting the trauma and the immaturity on my inside, it was like oil and water. Yeah. And so, fast forward, my current partner is my best friend. And she is someone that, instead of cutting me down, has built me up. Because instead of me having to look around and chase skirts and focus on all the other stuff, I know when I come home, that skirt is waiting for me. But more importantly,
I like that.
But more importantly, the skirt that I'm going home to is inspiring me to go out there and face the world differently. And so, a lot of guys think quantity is everything. It's quality. For sure.
Absolutely.
Quality is the key.
If I definitely could give any advice to the younger generation, as you know, Kurt, when we met each other, over a decade ago, we were both in nightlife. You owned a club. We were competitors in a way. I managed a competing hip hop club to the club you owned, and and then they were right next door to each other. Yep. And also, you were running the radio station back then, Hot 91. That was a really fun time. But obviously, I was surrounded by women, and I learned very quickly that the wrong, chasing women. I lost a lot of money in my life chasing women, but I never, ever lost women chasing money.
Not at all.
And so, another thing is you got to work on yourself. So to all the young men out there, you can't focus on women, especially when you're young. That's where, and Chris is young, Chris is smart. He does a very good job at this. Chris is about 10 years my junior. He's very disciplined when it comes to that, because these women will derail you. Yeah. And it's not a dig on women in general, but an unfocused woman makes an unfocused man. And so to find a woman, when you're young that is focused, and you don't have to settle down. I'm not telling young men if that's not where you're at in your stage in life, don't settle down. That's a big thing too. Is young men will try to settle down, but they still want to try every flavor.
Yep.
They still want to go out there. They still want to. That's going to derail you because you're going to have turmoil, drama in your relationship and in your day-to-day life.
Let me say this because I'm gonna piggyback on that. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, if you look at and you study billionaires, self-made billionaires, you can look at Gates, Bezos, Zuckerberg, and virtually any of them. Zuckerberg was a billionaire before he was 25, right? But what was pivotal about Zuckerberg? He's still a guy. He had a girl beside him, right? And the thing is, you look at Bezos. The whole time he been grinding from that garage, he had that lady with him. Now, when he get those billions and he start looking around differently, his life is in a different space. Women in this country, the highest paid position of a woman in this country is a divorcee.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Wow. That's the highest paid position. Wow. Look at it. Look it up, right?
Yeah, the richest women in this country made their wealth through divorce.
Bingo. Yeah. And typically it's from a self-made billionaire. Well, how was this man able to focus his attention and his passion and focus in his project and his purpose? Because he had somebody that wasn't derailing him back at home. He chose wisely. Zuckerberg didn't get the baddest cheerleader in college. He got the little young lady that was just as focused as him, want to be a doctor, right? Because guess what? She's studying too. Guess what? She got something going on too. Now, when he's lonely at night and want to cuddle, she's probably right there because by that point she put the book down and want to cuddle too. But she's not nagging him about how late you going to be in the office or how much time you going to spend coding tonight. Because she sees his purpose and sees there's a plan for their future. And that's what I'm saying. Men, we're all going to want to hunt. But maybe if you delay some of that hunting for the hunting of your purpose and have you somebody that ain't going to throw you off your path.
Yeah. I would go as far as to say that a good woman is one of the, if not the strongest asset you can have for your team.
Yes, absolutely.
Good woman.
Absolutely.
A good woman.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's beautiful. My last 2 cents on that, I would say, y'all think with the right head. Think with the right head. That's all I got to say regarding that.
Great advice. Wise words from a young man.
Absolutely.
So take us up to speed a little bit, Kurt. You've been in the music industry for a good while now. Been in nightlife. Where are you currently at in your business cycle? I know you got multiple things going on, and we could probably have an episode about the different things you have going on. But kind of highlight, from a bird's eye view, kind of the bullet points of what you have going on and what that means to you today.
Okay, so with that being said, right, I do have a lot of different things going on. I'm about insulation, right? So I have no medical background. But medicine is something that's not going anywhere. And because of what's happening in this country, mental health is at an all-time high in terms of need. Yeah. So thankfully, I was able to get into the mental health and behavioral health business. I'm newly licensed with my own agency. And so we're now hiring for Sunshine Community Services. Sunshine is named after my sister who I lost back in October. And she was, very pivotal to me. And so I named this after her in honor of her. With that, my primary mission in this life, at this stage of it, is to help people do something like what you guys are doing. You guys are in real estate, right? And real estate is one of those things that generates assets. And that's what this whole show is about. Well, real estate also has certain criteria. Right? You got to have decent credit in most cases. Not all, but, in most. You got to have some capital, right? Because it's expensive, right? And it's only getting more and more expensive. And so for me, I'm somebody that, as an entrepreneur, I've had my ups and my downs. But I've been involved in a lot of different things. And so I've been involved in tech. I've been involved in marketing. I've been involved in sales at a very, very high level, not just entertainment. And so when the pandemic happened, it literally kind of slowed everything down for me because a lot of the stuff that I'm involved in and where I make my money had stopped. Yeah. So I had to kind of pivot, and the fear and the uncertainty of what was coming next, because at one point we didn't know we were going to get back outside, if ever. Mm-hmm. We didn't know if we were going to lose all our families to this new airborne thing, right? So I had to figure out a way to not feel the way I felt at that time. I felt very handicapped. And as a provider, as a husband, as a father, that was something that really, really shook me up because I didn't like feeling like that. Mm-hmm. I didn't like feeling that level of vulnerability. And so I had a concept that came to me, and I was able to raise the funds necessary to build it. And it's taken me about 3 years to build this thing. And AI is something that just kind of came out of nowhere, and it pushed me back because I said, wait a minute. Before I jump out and launch what I've been doing, let me add this to it too. Yeah. Let me just throw this in the ring just to put icing on the cake, right? And so I'm in the online real estate business, if you ask me, because, whereas everyone can't afford to be physically in the world of real estate, everybody has real estate on their profiles, whether it be Instagram or Twitter. That's very coveted. That link in bio space is very, very important. There's companies that have made billions of dollars just by filling that little space. Companies like Linktree, companies like OnlyFans. And so I said, you know what? I need to be in that space, but I need to do it in a way that empowers the people. I need to be able to allow them to make the money and not just the company. And so there's a term called affiliate marketing that you see a lot of online, where what happens is you share a coupon code or a link or something, and it connects you to this transaction that happens, right? Well, I call mine super affiliate marketing with a cape on it, because what I've created, it empowers people with the benefits of an MLM or a downline, if you will, while having this affiliate marketing component as well. It merges the two. And because I'm in the digital space, there is no inventory. There is no door-to-door. There is no, janky sales stuff. As a matter of fact, you don't even really have to sell it. You can give it away. And then what happens is our AI comes along and upsells this person through either a phone call, an SMS text, or an email on upgrading. And when that happens, you make money. The person that introduced you to this makes money. The person that introduces them to this makes money. And that money is reoccurring every month. Yeah. So it's like OnlyFans on steroids without having to take any of your clothes off.
Wow. So how does someone start that, though? Is there any specific criteria they have to do that?
They got to be 18 years old. They got to be in the United States. They have a U.S.-based bank account, somewhere I can send the money to, because we don't cut checks. It's all direct deposit.
And what is the name of your company?
It's called iHero.
iHero, I love it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Awesome. So we got iHero, and if people want more, how do they look up iHero for more information?
So go to ihero.app on your web browser. And it's self-explanatory. We have AI that literally tells you and walks you through it, talks all about it.
It's all laid out there.
It's all laid out. iHero.app, hit the join button and take it from there. Sign up for free. I'll give you a free profile, throw in some incentives to you. The AI will call you back shortly after that and start upgrading. And when you upgrade, you're now in a position to have your own super affiliate link that you can share with your friends and family and turn all of your relationships into income.
Wow. Awesome. And recently I've seen you kind of on tour and doing different things with Teddy Riley. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about that. What are you doing now with Teddy Riley?
So basically, it's funny that you mentioned that. Teddy has one of the biggest music catalogs ever. In terms of production.
As a producer.
He's the one that gave us Pharrell. He's the one that has a whole genre, New Jack Swing. And under that genre, you have people like MC Hammer, Mary J. Blige, Guy, Blackstreet. Mm-hmm. And the list goes on, right? He's touched everything. He's got a Hollywood star. He's got, we just recently did the Songwriter Hall of Fame. He's got that as well, and a bunch of other accolades. So, people don't realize he's responsible for K-pop. When he kind of left the country for a while, he went over to Asia and started that whole genre, which is why you see a lot of the dance moves and stuff look like old New Edition. It's because that's Teddy's influence. He's producing that stuff. But needless to say, I was added to his team early March of last year. And so what ended up happening was I was introduced to him by way of an artist that I work with named Pretty Boy. Pretty Boy had caught his attention through social media, and he gave Pretty Boy the opportunity to open up for him when he came here years ago when he did a show at the Hampton Coliseum. So that created their relationship, and he just kept in contact with him. And so September of about a year ago, he introduced me to Teddy. Me and Teddy started communicating. I showed him about our hero. He thought it was a brilliant concept. He wanted to be a part of it. And then when he came to Hampton Roads on tour, I surprised him and popped up. And when he saw me, we're just joking around and, kind of catching up. And I'm like, hey, man, let me take you out to eat now that you're off the show, and let me show you what this is all about. He's like, man, I would, but I'm kind of busy. I got this tour thing going on. What you got going on? I said, my son, maybe I got a tour thing going on too. I was joking. He said, oh, so you coming? I said, well, yeah. He said, oh, we'll talk to Tara and, let's go. And I called my wife and said, baby, I'm going on tour. Let me come home and pack. Yeah. And next thing I know, I'm on the road with him. And so from there, that turned into him, just kind of giving me the opportunity to be a part of his team and just, helping him. And so that later on turned into, looking for buyers for his catalog. So I'm in the process of brokering that situation right now.
That's beautiful.
We're in that space, and I've got some folks overseas that really, really want in, and we're just, the lawyers are involved now, redlining different things, but hopefully, keep my fingers crossed, everything will line up the right way, and he'll have a massive payday, and I'll have a minor but pretty massive for me payday.
Yes, sir. I love it. I love it.
One of the most beneficial things I think you've talked about is just your relationships with people. So as you mentioned, the media company that you had in the early, the 90s, the early 2000s, you were working with some pretty big time celebrities, right? And then mentioned, today in 2024, working with another big time celebrity, Teddy Riley. So, you kept your relationships intact. You kept your name in a positive light out here. And I think that was one of your biggest assets for you.
Thank you.
Encourage your business.
Thank you.
So, Kurt, one of my last questions I want to ask you is, what would you say is your biggest asset?
People. I'm not the smartest guy, right? I tell people all the time, my wife is way smarter than me. And when I say that, I mean that in the sense that I don't retain information as quickly as everybody, but my gift is understanding that people are our superpower. That's how we maneuver in this life. And you can tell because the powers that be, in my opinion, not to get political, but when things don't happen for the better and people in the ability to make them happen for the better and they still don't, that means by default that that's not what they want, which means the opposite reaction is what they're trying to cause. So if we notice that our economy is not getting better and every time you turn on the news, there's something else to fear, and it's just, yet we have all this technology and we have all this intelligence and intellectualism, but yet things aren't getting better. When I was a kid, I could play outside. My kids can't play outside today. What's going on? When I ate food once upon a time, it didn't make me feel like the food I eat today. What's going on? So when we start going down those rabbit holes, that must mean by default is that this is in the program. This is in the design, right? Well, what is our only benefit, or how do we fight fire with fire, or what can we do to preserve and protect ourselves? Well, that's simple. It's called unity. It's called teamwork. It's called connecting. It's the one thing they don't want to happen. They want us with these headsets, and they want us locked into social media, locked into the metaverse, locked into being isolated. But we are communal people, and relationships are everything. Gio had an experience where he got himself in some trouble, ended up having to deal with that, came back, but guess what? He's bigger, badder, and better than ever. Why? He had not just the know-how, but he had relationships that he could call and say, hey, I want to come and work with you. I want to come and do this for you. I want to come and add value to your situation. And that person on the end of that phone said, well, shucks, let me give you this opportunity. And he took that opportunity and turned it into hundreds, if not a few thousand closings at this point, right?
So what you're saying is to lead with value, Kurt? Leading with value.
Absolutely.
And your relationships is so important.
Absolutely. Relationships are everything. You could strip me of everything today, and you give me a couple weeks, I'm going to be right back in place. Why? Because those relationships that I have. My attorney I've had for 20 plus years. I can call my attorney and have done so in a jam and say, hey, man, I need $10,000. And guess what? He said, okay, come by the office on this day. No questions asked, no when I'm going to get it back, because of that relationship. You know, my car goes out. With a guy that works on my car, guess what? He ain't saying, well, this is what it's going to cost. He's going to say, I'm going to drop a car off to you and you just let me, make sure the insurance is covered. People can't do that without good relationships. Yeah. That's what's important.
Love it. That's great. We're going to wrap up here. We want to give you a chance to ask me and Chris really quick one question each, and then we'll have one. We have one closing question for you, and then we can kind of wrap up. So we'll give you the floor to ask me and Chris anything.
I get to be the host real quick. So here on Assets Over Liability, this is what we doing. Chris.
Yes, sir.
My question is gonna lead in with a statement, right? I've watched you blossom in real estate, which is one of the most difficult things to do. Everyone's trying to do it. It has all the curves that I talked about, whether it be capital, credit, all these different things, and you got your start coming out of the pandemic when people weren't even trying to go outside and be in the same room and we 6 feet apart from each other. And that's when you had to start and figure it out. Yeah. Fast forward, I look up, you in the island somewhere, you hanging out, living your best life. You got a cigar in one hand and a mimosa in the next. And I'm going, wait a minute. What kept you going when it wasn't that way to get to that point?
That's a great question. I definitely appreciate the support, Kurt. The recognition and acknowledgement. I definitely appreciate that. But what really kept me going, I would say, is just I have like an insane drive in me to prove people wrong. That, and also to be a great example to anybody in my life, right? So no matter what's going on in my life, like I'll never quit regardless of what's going on. I always got to keep going. It's really hard. Like you talk about, me being in the islands, things like that. That's actually really hard for me to do. Y'all see the pictures of me on the beach and things like that. But a lot of times I'm actually working. I'm listening to podcasts on the plane about, expanding my knowledge, reading books on the plane, things like that. So I can become the best me as possible. So, I can prove those doubters wrong. But also so I can, show everybody in a good light. Like, yeah, you can make it. Like, you can achieve in your life what you want to do.
Awesome.
Love it.
Now, Gio.
Yes, sir.
That was very well said, Chris.
Thank you.
Gio, I get to pass this mic to you. This is kind of fun because I've known you for years.
Yes, sir.
I watched you grow up. I watched you elevate in so many different avenues. Some good, some not so good.
Yes, sir.
We're going to leave it at that.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to ask you this, right? You had been, in a position where, because of certain choices, your freedom was compromised, right? And in that space where you don't have access to information in a timely fashion, you don't have access to the right information at all times, good information, you have all these things that are distracting you, you don't have the freedom to move around. What kept you focused and sharpening to the point where you use that time period as a incubator to blossom? Because I recall when you first reached out to me and you had only been home literally days, and you were already, this is what I'm going to do, this is how I'm going to move, this is what's going on, and literally I've watched you manifest all of that to the G-Wagon.
Yes, sir. So to answer that, when I was taken out of society, but this can apply to anybody that is going on the journey. Life is all about self-improvement. I live by the saying, physically, mentally, whatever, is get 1% better each day. And one of the big tenements as a man or as an entrepreneur in general is being able to identify your weaknesses. It's hard because we live in a society, especially now, when we grew up, we didn't have all these distractions. Everyone's on their phone, social media, everyone's distracted. You don't get time. Life doesn't slow down enough for you to consciously work on your weaknesses. So I was able to literally look at myself from the outside in and say, okay, as a man, as an entrepreneur, as this business person, what are my weaknesses? Where are my holes? Where are my gaps? And I worked very hard to not only correct those, but hey, what is it that I'm good at? How do I get even better? If I'm really good at sales, how do I get even better? If I'm really good at closing, how do I become a better closer? Mm-hmm. So it takes you from being good in your trade, good in your area, to becoming a master. And when you can master those skills, and then my weaknesses, I still have those same weaknesses. I'm just not as weak. Mm-hmm. But my strengths, I'm that much more stronger to compensate for the areas that I lack in. Because you're always on this journey, no matter where you're at in the entrepreneurial cycle or where you're at in life, whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, or 60, you're still on a constant journey of trying to improve in some area in your life. And when you, you're always on this constant journey of trying to improve in life. And when people stop trying to improve, when you stop trying to get better and you remain stagnant, if you stop growing, you're doing what? You're dying, right? As soon as something stops growing, such as a plant, that means it begins to die. And as soon as you stop focusing on self-development, you're going to go backwards in life. And so when I was in that situation, you have to make do whatever your situation in life is. You got to take that and let it motivate you. When you have less opportunity, less access, that means you have to work that much harder to overcome, and you're going to be rewarded from it. Simple as that. So we really appreciate you again, Kurt, for coming out here, taking time out of your day. If you guys really want to check out something to enhance your affiliate marketing, your presence online, the iHero app, Kurt already plugged you in on how to get in touch with him. You can follow him on IG. What's your IG handle, Kurt?
Get Paid With Me Now.
Get Paid With Me Now. So with that said, anybody in the music industry, anybody looking to grow their presence, get paid with me now. Thank you, Mr. Bowens.
Thank you so much for having me. But before I go, I'm going to do something that's a little unorthodox. Right?
Okay, great.
So in this conversation, I'm going to drop a jewel. I'm going to add some value to you.
Okay.
A word came to me, and I listened clearly when this happens.
Okay.
And that word is, Gio, you need to create the manual. We can call it the Incarcerated Entrepreneur's Bible. Ooh. Now, why is this important?
Yes, sir.
Because there are millions of men that get incarcerated and women that get incarcerated that either go in with an entrepreneurial mindset or develop one there and don't know what to do specifically. Now, you have a bird's eye memory of, well, how did you and what did you and when did you and why did you do whatever it was that was improving you as a person and as an entrepreneur. That manual needs to be on JPay in every jail in America.
Yes,
and
sir.
You're living proof that what you say is gold. The before and after is amazing. I'll write your testimonial,
yes,
your
sir.
intro, whatever, and that could be a bestseller in there.
What did Biggie say? It was all a dream.
It was all a dream.
Thank you, Kurt.
Thank you for having me.
Stay tuned for the next episode of Let's Talk Assets. Giovanni Paradise here with
Chris A. Williams. Let's talk assets.